Parents of Reddit, what is the weirdest or creepiest thing you found out about your child, but you never will tell them that you found out? Conversation with my daughter when she was 2. Me. What do you want for breakfast, honey? Her. Puppy. Me. No. What? Her. Can I eat the baby? Me. Huh. She then goes and grabs her baby doll and proceeds to slam it in the oven. It wouldn't have been so bad if she didn't scream shut up at it when the doll started crying. Kids are fricked up. The first real noises that my baby daughter learned to make, other than crying of course, were growls. We found out in the middle of the night, through the baby monitor. My daughter has been at this since 6 months. It's both hilarious and terrifying. I'm not a parent, but the creepiest thing I ever discovered while babysitting was that this 7-year-old kid had a dead fly pile. He made a game out of catching flies with his bare hands, but unlike normal people who would just walk away from the scene of the crime, he decided to keep them as trophies or something. So in the bottom of his closet he had a little pile of dead flies no one else knew about. I didn't say anything. Maybe he's secretly feeding those flies to something in the closet. My younger brother, when he was about 3, started this game where he'd pretend his dong was a machine gun. So like, you could just be wandering around the house and he'd run up to you, completely naked, screaming, with his dong in one hand, making machine gun noises. I'm 30, still do that. About 2 weeks ago, my wife was playing outside with our kids, boy 2, girl 1, and she ran inside to get them some water or something. When she came back outside, my son was totally naked in the middle of the driveway taking a crap. Another one I know is, my friend's little brother used to go through magazines and cut out all of the women's boobs from all the pages in a magazine and keep them in a plastic bag under his bed that was labeled in black magic marker the booby bag. I went into my 6-year-old son's room around 10 o'clock at night when he was supposed to be asleep because I could see from the hallway that he was using a flashlight. Turns out he was naked from the waist down and had stretched the skin of his scrotum taut and was shining the flashlight through the skin of his scrotum to make his room glow a soft red color. My mom told me a story that I once casually strolled into her ladies' night gathering carrying a box of tampons and handed them out as welcome gifts. I was 5, had no idea what tampons were for, and a male. It was a different brand than she used. When I was younger, I found my mum's tampons and thought they were bulbs. I decided the only thing to do was to plant them in neat rows in the yard. My nan found it hilarious, but mum wasn't too happy. My 6-year-old cousin tried bending and breaking his penis because it was becoming hard and getting in the way. He's fine. My son would cry and tell me his pee-pee was up. I asked him if it hurt and he said, "It hurts my feelings." My female cousin and her female friend, I don't remember how old they were, but pretty young, had the amazing idea of playing doctor. Little did I know that this would include shoving nettles up each other's vaginas. My parents sadly have shared it to me, as well as most of their friends. When I was a little kid and was being potty trained, I somehow got the idea that I would poop like my dog, so I would go out in the backyard and poop. My family was at our friend's birthday party at their house and I ended up pooping in their backyard. We call that a yard cigar. Not a parent, but when my brother was younger, around 4 years old I think, he had his own poop and pee in Play-Doh containers under his bed. My mom found it when she was cleaning his room. He said he was practicing to be a doctor. My son, 5, asked me to get a particular film. It was an 80s film and it wasn't on Netflix, so I started to browse torrent sites to see if there was a copy of it. I click one of those fake download now buttons and a pop-up opens depicting a girl with her cheeks spread. I close it as fast as I can. Daddy, was that a butthole? Can we see it again? Dude, ad block. My wife and I have had a back massager. When my son was around 12, he left the dinner table to go to the bathroom. The ceiling started vibrating 10 minutes later. Our master bedroom was right above the dining room, so I went upstairs to check, only to see him humping the massager in a doggy style fashion. Without seeing each other, I just went back downstairs and explained to our dinner guests that we've been having an electrical problem. He was 12, he remembers. My parents caught my 12-year-old brother with 3-gallon jugs filled with urine below his bathroom sink. When they asked him what it was for, he said, "So I can tell how much pee I can make." A few years later he got arrested for throwing human and dog feces mixed with human urine in balloons at cars. I had one of those life-size walking dolls when I was a kid. My mom was babysitting this little boy. He was maybe 4. He finds this doll, which is truly life-size for him, brings it out to the living room and started dancing with it. So cute. Then he dropped it to the ground and started humping it. I believe he may have seen a bit more than his parents thought he did. My 2 nieces were playing with some post-it notes at my mother's house. The younger one was writing little messages on them and sticking them on things. I love you, hello, stuff like that. I walked past them just to hear the older quietly telling the younger one to write one to grandma, saying you're going to kill her. Okay, so I've read a fair few comments in this thread. WTF is with little girls and putting in the oven or killing humans, animals or anything that breathes. My friend's kid. Mommy, how old are you? My friend. 32. Kid, oh, that's a good age to die, I suppose. Not a parent. Babysat 2 kids for my sister, the usual sitter. The little girl was eating and turns to me and says, we could fit Diva in the freezer. Diva was a Pomeranian. I replied, but that wouldn't be very nice. Finish your dinner and then you can have dessert. She started eating again and stopped mid-bite. We can fit Rocky in the microwave. Rocky is a smaller Pomeranian. Let's not. Freaked me out a little bit. Why did she want to put her dogs in the kitchen appliances? Because they fit. Gosh, you need to listen. I'm late to this but I wanted to share anyway. My older stepsister sleepwalked a lot. When I was around 8 or so I remember waking up laying on my back because I felt something brushing my face. It was her hair. She was leaning over me with her mouth open a little just staring at me. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever woken up to. I was so scared I just laid there staring back. Then she straightened back up and left the room. I started crying loudly and my dad found her peeing in the corner of the living room. That part was funny later, but it took a while before I'd sleep in the room with her again. My mom caught me jacking it to stripperella and slowly backed out of the room. I caught her reflection in the TV but she didn't know I saw her. She's never brought it up. Can't blame her. Not a parent, but a couple years ago I found something strange in my little brother's closet. He was around 8 at the time. You know those large Kool-Aid containers that store the powder? Well, he took an empty one from the recycling pile and filled it with a combination of tap water, acorns from our backyard, leaves, and I think even some bugs. When I found it he opened it up after around 3 months, and it reeked like some serious mildew had formed. We dumped it and I found out he was trying to reincarnate one of the puppies my dog lost. Guess it didn't work. Well, not after you put your filthy hands on it. There was a girl I used to go to school with and she told me a story about her sister once. Her sister had an easy bake oven and the family had some goldfish. One day, the sister decided to wake up extra early so she'd be able to make the family breakfast. Cute, right? Wrong. What she had planned for breakfast was goldfish a la easy bake. Her goldfish died under a light bulb. RIP goldfish. My daughter cut the heads off of hers and hid them under the bed. She had been fishing with my dad and cleaning the fish afterwards, so at least there was a good explanation for why she did it. A friend of mine went out for dinner with his family, which includes a 4-year-old boy. Everyone was looking down at the menu to decide what to order. As the waitress approached the table, they all looked up and noticed the boy was standing in the booth with his pants pulled down and both hands pointing at his prominently displayed boner. In his best Huda man voice he proclaimed good morning penis. Apparently, he had been waking up with a hard-on, and this is what his parents called it when he asked them about it. Don't act like you're not impressed. My little cousin was eating the toilet paper bits caught in her labia in front of me. I told her to never do it again. Hopefully she listened. I lived on the west coast and she on the east. I was going to babysit my friend's younger brother and sister and the mom wanted me to come over for dinner so they could get to know me better. Before I left, the boy, 5 years old, said loudly and cheerfully and completely out of the blue, when I grow up I want to beat my wife. His parents were genuinely confused and told him that was wrong. In the few years we were neighbors I never saw any signs of abuse, so who knows where he got that from. My parents waited till I was 18 to tell me that as a wee toddler I used to eat the frayed ends of the carpet. I once walked in and listened for a good 30-45 seconds on my 4-year-old daughter holding a long conversation where Barbie was leaving Ken because he was an abusive deadbeat and Ken was alternately pleading and threatening Barbie, complete with name calling and accusations. Barbie sounded angry, but calm. The depth of her understanding of the situation weirded me out. We don't let him watch Springer and we parents had never fought like that, even in private. My parents did tell me, and they like to remind me every once in a while, telling me I've always been weird. Great. Anyway, I used to play with Barbies when I was 8-9 years old. I used to sometimes take their heads off. Other times, I would take all their clothes off, tie their hands behind their back and make a sort of chain of Barbies that were hung by their heads. I don't know why I did it, and neither do they. I have no recollection of this, but I'd think it was creepy for my mother to find one day when going into my room. Barbie centipede. One day my son, who was 10 at the time, his dad and I were driving home from his basketball game and my son was telling his dad about this girl who had thrown 2 basketballs in his face in the game the week before. When telling his dad about it he described her as an ugly bee. Before I could chastise him for the language sentiment his dad says, "Don't be like that. She could be your girlfriend one day." To which my son replies, "Yeah, then I'll be throwing balls at her face." One of those parental moments when you should be angry and punish them, but you're trying not to die laughing. My mom called out my full name one time. Not good. She told me she had found something disgusting on the computer. Crap. Here's a pretty solid transcript. Mom, this is disgusting. Majinsby. Mom, all teenage boys are looking at pee on the internet. Bob's dad even got him a Playboy for his 14th birthday. Mom, not like this. This is disgusting. Majinsby, what did you find? Mom, you tell me? Majinsby, I'm not going to do that. Just punish me. And that was it, a stalemate. I have consumed a very wide array of pee, and I had no idea how bad I had been busted, and figured, correctly, she wasn't going to fight like heck to go further down the rabbit hole. To this day, I have no idea what part of my fricked up psyche my mom busted me on. Turns out it wasn't yours at all. It was your dad's and it was more depraved than anything you've ever looked at. Thanks for taking one for the team, son. My son is 2.5 so we have many years of creepy ahead. But for now, the other day he was rolling around on the floor in the living room, doing these really weird looking somersault things. What you doing, bud? Just trying to bite my penis. Oh, well, be careful. My oldest son is always proud he can make his stand up. My youngest son is always upset when he makes his stand up. My son is 5. His aunt took him to the mall shopping last weekend. When he came home he whispered to me I spied on Auntie when she was getting changed and she has the hairiest vagina I've ever seen. I'll be reminding him of that in approximately 10 years. The disturbing part is that he must have seen a lot more to make the comparison. Talking to my wife about needing to update our wills since we'd moved house, and I jokingly said to our 1-year-old, "That means if mummy and daddy die, you get all our stuff." He looked at both of us, his eyes shifting back and forth thoughtfully, then slowly smiled. "That's okay." My son walked up to me the other day and said, "I don't need a mommy, eat this poison." My sister is stalking someone, don't know who though, so I can't warn them. I was visiting a friend, sitting in her kitchen chatting, when her 4-year-old boy came into the room crying. I mean really crying, like Santa and the Easter Bunny had just ganged up and beat the crap out of him. His face was beet red, and tears were streaming down his face. We then noticed that he had his erect penis clasped in his hand, and he was squeezing it as hard as he possibly could. The tip was an angry purple, like Barney the dinosaur had been trapped in a gigantic vice. He sobbed, "Mom, it hurts when I do this." He continued to cry as his mom and I looked at each other in dumbstruck confusion. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of crying and penis squeezing, his mom said, "Well honey, then don't do that." Her son immediately stopped squeezing, paused for a moment, then smiled as he tucked himself away. "Thanks mom," he said as he skipped out of the room. Christmas Eve. Heard my 3-year-old daughter say, "Don't worry, you'll go down in history." Came around the corner to see what she was up to. She was in front of her play kitchen, stirring the frying pan. In the frying pan was the head of a Rudolph reindeer toy. On the downside, Your kid is going to be a serial killer. On the upside, she's going to be an awesome serial killer. That line is zinger as frick. This is something my parents learned about me when I was in first grade, way back in 1962. Each child was provided a wooden locker. I was a bit of an odd kid and thought chestnuts from the chestnut trees looked cool, so I would pick them up and put them in my locker. I also felt sorry for the brown bags I carried my lunches in. To me they had such short lives. Caught one sandwich to school and then into the garbage. I took pity on them and saved them from their fate, placing them with the chestnuts in my locker. Over time I collected a lot of chestnuts and bags. I happened across a stash of pornography someone had hidden or dumped in the bushes. This also went into my locker, jammed in among the lunch bags and chestnuts. There was an art to keeping it all in the locker as I continued to cram chestnuts and lunch bags into the crevices. On the night of the parent-teachers meeting, my first grade teacher, Miss Rowan, let the parents look into their children's lockers. Each parent showed the others the cute things their kids had placed in their locker. When my parents opened mine, it was crammed full of the chestnuts, brown bags, and pornography. My parents were mortified. I was sent to see the school psychologist. You have been visited by the Rare Dream Doggo. Comment, sweet dreams doggo, and you will have good dreams. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.